Okay, A's fans, you can admit it. When he hit that home run to tie the game, you thought they were going to sweep.
You are Locked On A's, your daily Oakland A's podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, A's fans, and welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the podcast where we talk about your Oakland A's in their final season in Oakland. Or is it? We're going to talk about an article from Sacramento that's just throwing doubt on everything. I don't know what's happening. All I know is that I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. And that today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Let's first talk about the game. I thought today was going to be the hardest game for the A's to win because I'm a big, I hate to say fan of his, but Framber Valdez, I'm a big believer in Framber Valdez. Framber Valdez should have won the World Series MVP in 2022. No offense, Jeremy Pena had a fine season that year, but a fine World Series that year. But I knew the matchup of Spence versus Valdez was going to be tough. And the A's had already won the first two games of the series, so I felt they were playing with a little bit of house money. And when Hayward hit a home run for the Astros, Hayward's an Astro. That's still kind of weird. When Jason Hayward hit a home run for the Astros and basically introduced himself to the Astros lineup there and gave an early 2-0 lead, I kind of thought, okay, there you go. It's going to be that kind of a day. But give Spence credit. Spence went the full 7 innings. He went 7 innings, and yes, he let up that home run. Yes, he let up 7 hits, but he didn't walk anybody. Another key thing, no walks. If you don't walk batters and you don't give them base runners, good things can happen. And yes, he hit that Hayward hit that home run with 2 outs in the second inning. But other than that, Spence shut them down the rest of the way and kept the A's in there. Now, Valdez was very good. Obviously, he's a very good pitcher. And he wound up pitching into the 7th inning. And then Cameron got that base hit, made it 2-1. They got into the bullpen. And while Abreu got him out of that situation, and it stranded the tying run on in the 7th, they got to the pen. And there was that sense of, hey, let's turn this into a bullpen game. And then in the 8th inning, Rooker hit his home run, a 1-out home run that made it 2-2. And we all thought that this was going to be an A's win. And the A's did what you needed to do. They got to run the 7th, run the 8th, and then run the 9th. They got a blown save from Presley, and Hader had an inning where he let up a run, which if you do that one, let up a run every time you pitch an inning, that's going to be a 9 ERA. You cannot fault how they handled the final 3 innings, except, of course, Singleton gave the Astros lead with the single. Myers doubled, and then there was that crazy play, and the A's tried to challenge it, but in the end, more runs came in. It was just a mess. Then it was 6-2, and of course, Tyler Nevin homers in the 9th to make it a 6-3 game. But it's frustrating. I keep saying the A's, when they lose, you would rather they lose big time. And they keep proving that, because a game like this, you're like, they could have won that. They really could have. That could have been win number 65 as they want to inch closer and closer to win number 73. And it could have been a sweep of the Houston Astros. And yes, Going into the series, you keep saying, got to win series, got to win series. Winning the first two games was glorious. And there were thrilling games, to be sure. But for God's sakes, oh, it was right there. Okay, I can't get too into this. I can't get too angry because if you had told me at the beginning of the series, especially when things were going badly in the first game, that they were going to take 2 out of 3, you have to be happy with that. I'll tell you what I'd like though. Think about the last bunch of A's wins. A 1-run win on the 11th. A 1-run win on the 10th in 12 innings. That remarkable back and forth walk-off 13-inning marathon on the 6th. In fact, they had 3 straight games where their wins were walk-offs. The walk-off against the Detroit and the 2 walk-offs against Seattle. And then the last time they blew the doors off the dump, the last time they had a win of more than 1 run was August 30th. We're now in mid-September, and they haven't had a blow the doors off the dump win since the 9-2 win against Texas. And even that game, even that 9-2 blow the doors off it was close until the 4-run 9th inning. So go back to going back to their last bunch of wins, because that was a big win, but they poured it on late. So they have had all those walk-off wins. They had the 192 win, but then they had a 9-6 win, a 5-4 win in Cincinnati, a 4-3 win against Milwaukee, a 3-1 win against Tampa, a 3-0 win against Tampa, 2-0 win against San Francisco, 7-6 thriller against the Mets. I mean, it's been over a month since they've had a genuine blowout win. And I got to tell you something. My mind and my psyche could really use a blowout win, a game where just everything went great. That was why that game I went to on May the 4th, when they blew the doors off the dump against Miami and got up to 500, was so great, because you need a blowout win every once in a while, a laugher. Do you know why? Because you can't have every game be this incredible, stressful situation. You'll lose your freaking mind if it happens that way. So the A's have 6 straight days in Chicago. 3 games against the Chicago White Sox. That's got to be that has to be 3 wins. You've got to be able to sweep that series. You've got to be able to sweep that series. And then you have 3 games against the Cubs, and the Cubs are a strange, weird, bizarre team. And then after they come back from Chicago, it's unbelievable, will be the final homestand in Oakland. We're running out of games here in Oakland. There are 6 games left. Starting September 20th, 3-game series against the Yankees, and then the 24th, 25th, and 26th against Texas. I'll be there for the 26th. But yep, and file that under yep. They need to come home with a chance to win that game number 73 and avoid 90 losses. But for right now, as frustrating as it was to lose the game, we all have to be happy with the fact that the A's, well, they showed up. They showed up big time against the Houston Astros, and here we are with them toning up and hopefully piling on a couple of wins in Chicago. All right, when we come back from this, I will tell you that the A's gotten more weird news. There's never enough weird news with the A's. And is this Sacramento thing even happening at this point? All right, let's talk about our good friends over at TonaI. Now, I got to tell you something. Working out, even if you want to be working out every day, Even the most dedicated gym goers struggle with consistency. The commute, waiting for weights, other people's sweat. It makes skipping a workout very, very tempting. With Tonal, you can choose from thousands of workout and train in a way you actually enjoy at home. Tonal is the world's smartest and most effective strength training system that helps get you stronger. Powered by AI, Tonal learns with every rep so it can deliver workouts personalized just for you. Tonal learns from your movement and provides suggested weight recommendations for every move with detailed progress reports. They can even create personalized programs of workout suggestions or recommendations based on your individual goals. It's like having a personal trainer at home with you, as Tonal will optimize every workout just for you. Unlike traditional gym equipment, Tonal uses adaptive digital weight to advance your training techniques. From professional athletes to your pal Sully, Tonal is trusted by thousands who have become their strongest. Right now, Tonal is offering our listeners $200 off your Tonal purchase with promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Tonal.com and use promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $200 off your purchase. Tonal.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $200 off. All right. Thank you very much for making Locked On A's your first listen today. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On MLB podcast. It's hosted by me, your pal Sully. I'm here to provide the national expertise with my point of view and humor and get you ready for the Major League Baseball playoffs. And I've got it covered every single day on Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is indeed your team every day. Reports from Sacramento. This is from Jason Rader, the KFBK digital manager of News Radio. Scott Boras has said that there are health and safety issues with Sacramento, and the Major League Players Association has not yet agreed to this, the move to Sacramento and the upgrades. And the fact that they're going to put some sort of artificial turf on there, which could make according to Boris and other people, says that without a dome stadium, it gets to 120 to 130 degrees. Now, this is not the AstroTurf that you would have seen in the 60s or 70s with a big red machine, or at the Vet in Philadelphia, or in St. Louis, where it would just be basically a frying pan and a hard surface. But it would still be artificial turf. And it would still have a ton of sun beating down on them. And quite frankly, this is just another example of the fact that this whole plan, there is no plan. There has been no forethought. And that we're seeing that we're just about at the end of the season. It is mid-September. The season ends in late September. And we still don't have the Major League Baseball Players Association signing off on this, signing off on a stadium that's being shared with a minor league team, signing off on a player surface that could be a health hazard, of which I've witnessed firsthand how GD hot it can get, and I wasn't playing on the artificial turf. Now, and of course, with the talk of, well, if they make the postseason, which is not out of the realm of possibility, where would they play it? Would they play it in Sacramento? I hope they do. I hope Major League Baseball has to do it. And call them the Sacramento A's, you cowards. Because there's no guarantee they're playing in Las Vegas. And this brings up another factor. Again, the factor of trying to make a competitive team by the time they get to Vegas in 3 years, maybe, if they get the funding, whatever happens. But if you're Vegas and you are seeing how poorly this has been run, how stupid and short-thinking the management has been, why would you do business with them? Seriously, why wouldn't you renege? And if there are penalties on it, fine. Paying the money now, I think there's money in Vegas. paying the money now before building the stadium and getting in bed with the Fishers, pulling a Luca Brasi and sleep with the Fishers, why would they? Every stupid thing like this exposes how disorganized this franchise is. Why would Vegas want to do business? At some point, don't they have the option to say, yeah, you haven't paid for anything yet, and we don't have a stadium here yet, and we're gonna wait. We're gonna wait. Baseball wants to be in Vegas. I'm not 100% sure why, but they'll expand there. And if the A's drop anchor in Sacramento, Vegas will think, my God, we dodged a bullet big time. And something like this, the not thinking about the health of the players playing on AstroTurf or some form of artificial turf in that blazing sun, what agent in their right mind, it's important to remember, it's Scott Boras saying this, what agent in their right mind would allow their clients to play in Oakland or play for Sacramento? It's like, what agent in their right mind would say, I have a pitcher, I'm going to have them play in Coors Field? None. That would be insanity. And what agent would say, hey, sign with the A's, extend with the A's? Because they're clearly a forward-thinking organization. They clearly got their stuff together. This is every day, it is looming the possibility, if Major League Baseball Players Association do not approve this, and there's new ownership for the Oakland Coliseum, could they play in Oakland next year? There's part of me that's thinking it's like the movie Kramer versus Kramer, where they went through all this, Dustin Hoffman's character went through all the agony of the divorce hearings and the custody hearing, and eventually having to let go of custody of his son at the last minute. He gets the custody back because, well, the mother doesn't want him or didn't feel that he should leave his home. Is that what's going to happen to the A's after we've gone through all of this trouble to say goodbye, to have them say, we're actually going to stick around? And look me in the eye and say that's out of the realm of possibility based upon all of the insanity that we've had with this. There's been no planning. There's been no organization. There's been no consideration for the players. And now they don't even have the players' approval. And why would they? So we're going to see what happens. But I can tell you, Las Vegas, you're better than this. All right, let's talk about our friends over at PrizePicks. You know all about PrizePicks, or at least at this point you should. It's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. And you can now earn up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as few as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the best way to get on the action in most states, including Texas, Georgia, and right here in California. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. And PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks don't hit. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB. You get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. And now let's talk a little bit about our friends over at FanDuel. You've heard us talk about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Well, we have something a little different from you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 to get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV-based plan, you'll be able to watch regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market games All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. If that's not enough, be sure to check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's double your winnings for all of Sunday, September 15th. Pregame moneyline bets. Profit Boost will be starting live on Thursday, September 12th. View your account page to learn more about your boost. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. All right. Thank you so much for making Locked On A's your first listen. Check out more of me on Locked On MLB. I've got it covered every single day. You can find the link to Locked On MLB in the description, so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. All right. Well, we've got the 6 straight games in Chicago starting in a few hours now. If you're listening to this on Friday, I think the calendar will, by the time this gets downloaded, it'll be Friday night. And so they are going to be throwing, the White Sox are going to be throwing, let's take a look at the schedule here. The A's are, do we have a starting pitcher yet? They're going to be throwing, Crochet is going to be throwing for the White Sox, and he's their all-star. He's their best pitcher. And so, if the White Sox are going to have any chance, it's going to be that game 1. You can't let them win. I'm sorry. You got to sweep this. You cannot allow the White Sox to pick up a victory here. My internet is being a little strange to me, so I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way and do it via the phone. So the White Sox are indeed throwing Crochet in the first game, which is going to be on Friday, and the A's have currently scheduled Basso, who pitched really well the last time, so that should go pretty well. I think that should go well for the A's because he pitched well. On Saturday's game, the A's have Ginn versus Flexen. Is it Ginn or Ginn? Against Flexen. And then on Sunday, the finale, which hopefully is a sweep, Sears will be pitching against the dreaded TBD. So, hey, let's hope this is a weekend of a lot of fun wins and maybe get inch closer to avoiding 90 losses. And look, I don't think the A's are coming back next year. If they go to Sacramento, I do hope it's a success. I hope I'm not rooting against them. But come on, folks. Let's win some games against Chicago. And let's also, I'm going to read a couple of comments from our listeners. Kendy's TV 1853. Name a worse owner than John Fisher in sports. You can't. Rob Manfred is a disgrace for letting this happen. No argument here. I like this one here. This is a couple from, Ron Paul Bum Depot says, during the O'Malley Haas era, people forget that Oakland Coliseum was superior ballpark to Dodger Stadium. Well, that's subjective, but the Coliseum was in great shape during the Haas era and was a good place to see a ball game. In fact, I could see a renovated Coliseum being recognized as one of the best ballparks in the world within a couple of decades. Okay, let's pump the brakes a little bit. There was poop floating through it, and the place is a mess. And I do think you could build a terrific baseball-only ballpark in the parking lot without having to do anything with the stadium. But here's what he said. He said, that's what we saw in Boston, Chicago. People want to replace Fenway Wrigley, and smart people like me told me to shut the hell up. Well, you're right. There were people who wanted to replace Fenway and Wrigley, and that turned out to be not the right thing to do. Mark Sujian, who's a Everyday A's listener, says he made a pilgrimage from Armenia to Oakland to see the A's for one last time. That's great. That's fantastic. As a kid growing up in Giants territory in the late 60s and early 70s, it was lonely to be an A's fan. Yeah, but you got the last laugh in the mid-70s, didn't you? Sacramento, Save the People writes, Sacramento as a big league city would work as long as they eventually get a roof or barn or shelter for the ballpark. Those aren't cheap, by the way. I'm sure they're not. And finally, Thomas Joseph says, I'm subscribed. The shirt is a huge plus. Expo toujours. I was wearing an Expo shirt the other day. A couple of the days before that, I was wearing a Pilot shirt. And today you see I'm wearing a Senator's shirt. Part of it is showing some solidarity for teams that are now gone. And the A's will join those graveyard. But Montreal is more apt because no team has replaced the Expos in Montreal, at least not yet. Maybe the A's could. I do want the A's to do well in Sacramento. But find a way. Look, I know it's not cheap to put some sort of an awning over it, but they got to do it because you just can't play in that. All right, let's have a fun weekend of baseball. Follow us at Locked On A's on Twitter, or whatever it's called now. And on Instagram, I'm your pal Sully. It's Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Talking about a series that was so close to being a sweep, but we got to find the smile because 2 out of 3 ain't bad. This has been Locked On A's. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.